and human rights and how you deal with it in the corporation, the organization, and the people that work with you, work for you, your vendors, your relationships, your partners. How do you look at those relationships, and how do you look at that information in relationship to human rights, and how you implement those? Let's have a look at human rights. The topic itself, what it covers. The topic itself covers a lot of areas that you need to be aware of in your organization to make sure that you're approaching it in the right way. So what we're looking at here are all the subtopics that we're covering here. If you've seen my presentations before, my videos before, you know what we're looking for. As an example, I'm just pulling out one so you get an idea of what's behind this before we head to the main event, which is the 7 main questions to ask, most important questions to ask in your organization regarding human rights and artificial intelligence. A regulatory control audit, just opening up a random ball here, a random bubble, and it gives me an explanation. A regulatory control audit is a systematic review of a company's operations to ensure they meet legal standards of human rights. So that's an example, that's an explanation of a regulatory control audit. Now, if I open that one up, I get a question, a control question to ask. And I ask that question of these people: compliance auditor and compliance officer. Now you already noticed that in this data set we have several areas. So we've got the main area, which is human rights and AI, and we've got sub areas which are related to that one. Regulatory control audit, we opened that one up. We've got an explanation and a control question. So question you should be asking of these people: compliance auditor and compliance officer. When I open the question up, I will also get some recommendations, some things to look for in my organization, or the answers to be the answers that I need to be looking for. Those are the green balls. The green balls will give you an idea of, do we have that in place in our organization to make sure we're doing a regulatory control audit right with these people: compliance officer, compliance auditor, compliance auditor. What you also notice here with this question, the question is: are climate change, environmental and sustainability risks factored into the supply chain management processes, along with human rights and ethics? We also see a number here, number 98. All our questions, and let's have a quick peek. There are 414 essential inquiries regarding human rights and artificial intelligence in relationship to this data set, in this data set. 414, and they're all numbered based on their priority. Their prioritization is organized and created based upon the relationship of the question and all the to all the other questions. So when we do that, the most important questions come bubbling up to the top, and those are the top 7 questions that we get to see later. This one is number 98 in the ranking, so it's one of the top 100 questions, you might say, in the whole data set of 414. Okay, so now you have a quick idea of how all this data set is completely connected and what's in this data set. So what's in this data set is the main topic, the subtopics that you need to address, take care of, explanation of each subtopic, questions to make sure that you're doing the activity right, activities in regulatory control audit, and recommendations here to have a look at, do we have that in place? Now, quickly, people that let me quickly show you the blue balls. So the dark blue balls will give you an idea of the people that are involved in human rights and AI in your organization. So we have your privacy advocate, we have cost accountant, quality auditor, security officer, human rights lawyer. And again, when I just click on these people and I open them up, I get specific questions asked to ask these people in my organization, and how they interact with each other and what area it's related to. It's also helpful to make sure that we have all these job roles functions, and as part of the job role functions, we have a human rights attribute attached to them as well, so they know that they keep that in mind continuously and are responsible for making sure that's done right. Yeah. So these are all the job roles that are affected by human rights in AI, artificial intelligence. People should be thinking about it. Okay, without further ado, let's go to the main event, which are the 7 most important questions. So as I said before, there's over 400 questions in here, and what we're showing now is just the top 7 questions that bubble up to the top to make sure that it's covering everything. What due diligence is undertaken to understand the human rights risks associated with the entities to whom your organization is providing services? What due diligence is undertaken there. So, people we need to involve here: data protection officer, consent manager, and privacy attorney. User consent is the process of giving permission to ensure human rights are respected and protected. So, what due diligence do we have in place there? That human rights are associated with the entities whom your organization is providing services. So, make sure you're covering all that. And these are all some of the activities that we have in place. Have visibility of all the different services that you have, inspire trust, build a client base, and increase commitment to products and services. Have another one here: have visibility into and control over risks. Have the ability to change as you identify new risks here. So make sure that you're agile in that regards. We see here a number as well, and that number is the highest score the score that's related to this question, and these are other questions that are related to that high score as well. And that's question 6 and 5. They'll pop up in the data set as well. So there we go. Question number 6. Does your organization have the appropriate mechanisms in place to understand the potential adverse human rights impacts on affected stakeholders and how to respond appropriately? And the people that we need to have here is we need to have an advocate, we need to have legal involved, and an investigator. And then we have human rights impact is the set of measures used to assess how human rights are being respected and enforced. So that's the impact that you're looking for here. What are the mechanisms that you have in place? Know the difference between the different types of data exchange and reporting mechanisms that you have in place. Have enough support teams or status of support mechanisms. What else do we have here? Have the capacity to identify the mechanisms that you have in place and rate the effectiveness of these targeting mechanisms. Make sure that you're doing all that to ensure that you can do this. Does the organization have the appropriate mechanisms in place to understand the potential adverse human rights impact on affected stakeholders and how to respond appropriately? Important question to ask. Question number 5. Has your organization developed a human rights due diligence process to implement its policy commitments and assess its impacts? And again, here we see the same people popping up here: advocate, legal, and investigator, to make sure that we have that. And these are the activities that we then have to deal with to make sure that we're doing that in the right way. And it's related as well to this one here: human rights impact, the impact of human rights. Question number 4. Got 4 to go. Does your organization, let me zoom into this one, conduct human rights impact assessments on processes for policy enforcement, targeted advertising, and algorithmic decision-making systems? So your AI that you're building, does your organization conduct a human rights impact assessment? So make sure that you do that actually. Have the impact analyst in place there, data analyst and policy researcher. Have mitigation plans in place for when you find impact, solve for your clients. Know you can avoid fraud perpetration and reduce their impact. Monitor the use or have ongoing statistics to show what the impact is. Really down-to-earth activities that you need to have in place with these people to make sure that you conduct human rights impact assessments. And the human rights impact is a set of measures used to assess how human rights are being respected and enforced. So can you deliver transparency in that regards? Do you have a set of KPIs that you can measure and show exactly what you're doing there? The top 3, let's go to number 3. Zoom out. Number 3 is down here. Has your organization embedded its approach to the protection of human rights with regard to any third-party relationships it has, appropriate to the nature, scale, and impact of the business? So a group is an organized assembly of individuals who share common interests, benefits, or experiences or beliefs that work together to promote human rights. So the relationships that you have as a group, the third-party relationships, have you embedded an approach to protection of human rights there across your whole value stream, basically? Have a researcher and an activist involved as well to make sure that you're doing the right things there and are actually covering all the areas that you need to be covering. Find additional official guidance on data protection here. Protect your privacy regards to the use of data protection. Have someone assigned to manage key partner relationships. Take the time to evaluate the effect of your communication in your relationship in relationship to this, in relation to the protection of human rights. Question number 2. How does your organization understand whether and to what extent the incorporation of speed in the value proposition impacts the human rights of workers, suppliers, or other business partners? So speed is good, speed is great. We need to have speed to go to market continuously, but we shall not forget our human rights when we do that. Have the change manager involved there to make sure that we're continuously watching that. Solution architect, project manager, do this before debriefing to help speed it up. Take the time to slow down to speed up. Have a compelling channel product value proposition. Deliver the right outcomes at the right speed. Manage data streaming in real time rather than processing historical data in batches to speed it all up. So those are some suggestions and recommendations to make sure that you're doing this, that you're managing the speed of delivery of your organization without um, getting your eye off the ball of human rights, without losing sight of human rights. Have that actually embedded in all your activities. That's what we're doing here. Now let's have a look at number one. Does your organization have processes in place to identify risks, to identify and assess adverse human rights risks and impacts arising in its supply chain? Does your organization have processes in place to identify and assess adverse human rights risks and impacts arising in its supply chain? Again, that's across the whole supply chain. So where do you source your material from? Where does your product end up in the end, or service end up in the end after use? So the whole value chain, you need to have that in there. So what we have here, the people that we have involved here are, we have an advocate here, and and what we're looking for here is, let's drag it out a bit so I can see what's going on here. Dragging it out. We're looking for receive regular reports on fraud risks. We're looking for implement continuous monitoring over the system lifecycle and supply chain. So you're looking for your lifecycle of your products and services, how you're dealing with that from its inception to its getting rid of it. Make new competency model make a constitution to be the foundation for all people that are involved in all the processes. How do we deal with this? Have a constitution for that. Have a robust, well-documented program to monitor risks here. And cyber risk is here an example. So when we look at this, let me open it up like this. So that goes into the middle. So we have a good look. Now we see the 7 most important questions to ask in our organization to deal with human rights in relationship to artificial intelligence development. The main message that we see here is that you need to make sure that you cover your whole value stream, you cover your whole supply chain. So everything, not just you as an organization, but everything that you touch and everything that touches you needs to be involved in dealing with human rights across your whole supply chain in the delivery of your products. That's the main message here, and it conveys it in those 7 most important questions that's being asked here. And what we see here, what I like about this, so every question has a main keyword that pops out of it, and they all have the same one here. That's the yellow box, human. And I like keeping that in the center, human. Think about yourself, think about how you would like to be treated, and treat others and your clients and vendors and everyone around you in the world like you would like to be treated. With that, I leave you for today. These are the 7 most important questions to ask in relationship to human rights, specifically when you're dealing with artificial intelligence. Make sure that you're doing that the right way. And I always like to end with a big bang, and the big bang is this one. And then, as you might know, this big bang takes a while to build. What we're getting here is the complete information that's in this data set, all the data that's in this data set. The data set has 242 human rights functions and their responsibilities, so all the job roles that are touched by human rights and artificial intelligence, and that you need to incorporate human rights elements in. And those are all the dark blue balls that we see on our screen here. 414 essential inquiries regarding human rights. Those are the questions, the blue balls that we have here. The blue balls are all the questions, and we see the 7 most important ones, and 2,710 recommendations. Those are the green balls, and all their connections. And the orange balls, they are the explanations of all the main areas that we're covering here surrounding human rights for artificial intelligence. With that, I thank you for today. And if you've got any questions, contact me. Have a look at the data set below. That data set will give you all the information that you need. All the data is in there. You can reuse the data in any application that you see fit. For now, I'll leave you with this. Thank you, and see you again tomorrow.